Hey everyone!
Hey everyone!
Hey everyone!
Hey everyone.
It's time! We're adding a new skill to old school RuneScape. It's either going to be sailing, taming, or shamanism. We have 3 official skills to choose from. One will be taken further into development and probably make it into the game. This is going to be the biggest update to old school RuneScape in history. So there's so much to talk about. There's a lot to get into in this blog today. And there's actually a very good video by Jagex where the JMods explain each of the 3 skills, what they're looking like. We'll watch a little bit of that and I'll go through the blog here today. But first, I just want to say where my head's at regarding a new skill. When thinking about a new skill, I've got 2 sides of my brain. One side is the YouTuber side, which is just like, yes, let's get a new skill by any means necessary. The race to rank 1 on the high scores, amazing content, new stuff, like bam, 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 let's do it. And then the old school player, the conservative side of me is like, hold on, we've got 23 skills in the game. Adding a 24th will change the fundamental fabric of old school RuneScape, and it is a risk to take. And I think that side of me really reins it in. And with all the new prayers and stuff coming out, in my opinion, I don't want a new skill to have I want it to have hardly any effect on combat, because I think combat is what underpins this game for the most part, for the most people. Evolution of combat ruined the game for everyone. And I'd say before that, leading up to it, there were a lot of updates which made the game unrecognizable and led to people like me quitting as well. So I don't want things to spiral out of control. With these new prayers, I don't want a new skill to have heavy combat elements. I'm just going to say that straight away. That's just my opinion, but that's going to inform my take on a lot of these skills here. Also, I think I share the opinion with a lot of the player base that I don't want this skill to be viable. My credit card doesn't want this skill to be viable, at least, because I'd have to buy a ton of bonds. And yeah, I'd say I'd want it to end up being around 150k an hour. Nothing too slow, nothing too quick. I want to enjoy the process and just have sort of a middling XP rate. And above all else, I think the fundamentals of the skill have to be reasonably enjoyable to train. I think the rewards, all that sort of stuff is kind of irrelevant. It's about what is the actual process of doing the skill looking like. I think that's the most important thing for me.
Taming is a utility skill, all about discovering new and existing creatures around the world and taming them into friendly companions. If you earn their trust and take care of them, in return, they'll aid you on your adventures. You can utilize their unique abilities to interact with the world in entirely new ways and deepen your bond with your animal companions by training and leveling them up to make their abilities even stronger.
So taming is essentially giving you some animal companionship. You get the animal from the wild and then it helps you do things in RuneScape. One thing I initially just don't like about this already, I hate having something following me in game. I don't know if anyone else is the same, but when you have like a kitten on a new Iron Man or something, that shit's a burden, bro. Trying to escape responsibilities with this game, not have more things following me around. Anyway, okay. Sorry, let's continue.
This is not summoning.
Cap.
The similarities only go as far as having a companion which can aid you with various different types of content across the game.
I mean, like, that's the only part that's similar? What? That's like the whole thing. You have a companion that helps you around the game. Sorry, that just caught me off guard, that one. It's just funny. I'm being slightly unfair here. Let's go to the blog for taming. Taming is distinctly different to summoning, and that is definitely apparent through the training methods and the core gameplay loop. Remember how I said this was important? It very much is. So the first step is that you domesticate a creature in the open world. So let's say I'm wandering around RuneScape and I see this seagull. Maybe I could right click tame it. Maybe I don't know, how do you catch a seagull? Use a net on it or something? Who knows? But anyway, then I'd get the seagull. The second step of the core gameplay loop is to care for it by providing it with food, a home, and enriching activities. And how I imagine this is maybe there's some sort of construction space or like a farming patch type deal where I'd say build a nest for my seagull in this certain spot. And then I would bring it certain food to feed it, to level it up, and to gain XP through that. Maybe you toss it certain toys that it can play with, and you get XP from that as well. And you're just looking after it, right? Parenting simulator. And lastly, train and level your new friend. So now it's grown up a bit, my seagull, I can take him out of the enclosure and use him for different things around the game. Say maybe I could get him to fly to these trees over here, and he flies and collects some bird's nests from the trees. Maybe you can make it fly into trees and pillage its fellow seagulls, hatchlings, I don't know. Like get different eggs, or maybe it could deep dive down into the sea and get you different types of fish. All that sort of thing, which a player can't do. I can't fish for, I don't know, whatever you could fish for. And there's a lot of different possibilities for a lot of different animals. For example, here's a squirrel. Maybe I could tame that, put it in like a hutch somewhere, take it out, and do some sort of agility course with it, where maybe I drop food to get it to go through tunnels, and you get XP for taming from training it like that. And then maybe you can take your squirrel out and forage for nuts, which are secondaries for new sort of herbal potions. All these sort of things are possibilities. The closest thing I could think of in the game was falconry, where you have a falcon. The falcon can catch something that you can't catch as a human, and then you get a different sort of reward from that. And maybe you could, and I shudder at the thought, right-click, tame a dragon. How to train your dragon, and that could help you out in combat. I'm not a massive fan of that, because I don't think we need extra buffs to combat through a third party. And to be honest, I'm kind of meh about taming overall. I think it's a decent idea for a skill, but just from my opinion of how I like to play the game, I like my character to be the one interacting with the game world, and I don't really want to interact with it via a third party of an animal or something like that. And yeah, I don't have to have the burden of looking after things. I wouldn't hate it if this was the skill that came out, because I don't think it would change the game in a monumental way. I don't know. I'd be sort of come see, come sa.
Let's talk about sailing. Join us on this adventure and acquire a ship to take to the seas. Master the art of sailing and explore the world in a brand new way, setting foot on new islands and traversing hazardous waters, storms, and sea monster attacks. Whether you're an adventurer uncovering new places to explore, a fisherman catching fish only available far out at sea, or a pirate venturing into dangerous waters looking to sink every ship in sight to plunder treasure, or even a courier looking to move goods from A to B, for a price of course. Sailing has something to offer for everyone looking to spend their time out at sea.
Sailing, sailing, sailing. Oh, I flip-flop between really liking sailing and also thinking it's a horrific idea and will never be good. So for the core gameplay loop, this could be summarized in one sentence. You essentially get on a boat and do fun stuff at sea. You just do sailing, bro. And I think that's the hardest thing I have when considering sailing. We just have no idea how this is actually going to play and feel and look like. If we scroll down, they say we'd like to focus on navigating as a core mechanic. This will be a huge part of the skill. So actually sailing at the sea is going to be what you're spending most of your time doing. They go on to say things like hunting sea creatures, deep sea fishing, which is like having a net trawl behind your ship, navigational challenges, time trials, delivering packages. And then there are new islands. I think when people think about sailing, they're thinking about, oh yeah, we'll just be on these islands. But you're not actually sailing while you're on those islands, are you? Like the actual skill is going to be out in the ocean doing this sailing mechanic, whatever that's going to be. It's so difficult because of that. If it's good, then I really like sailing. But if it's bad, then I really don't like sailing. And there's no way to tell. So sailing, for me overall, it's just such a big question mark. And they don't even know themselves what the sailing mechanic is going to be. Is it going to be point and click? You move your ship to a certain place? That seems the most intuitive and in line with the game so far. But then they go on to say things about unique algorithms. They don't really expand on that one. They say you could potentially move via the keys, which would feel very strange for RuneScape. That is completely atypical of this game. Or even via an interface the entire time, which I don't know if I want to be in an interface for the whole time either. I don't really like that. reminds me of Bon Voyage, and I've got trauma over that stuff. So I'm definitely skeptical of the actual sailing mechanics. However, everything outside that, commandeering ships, investigating islands, I'm so down for all that sort of stuff. The exploration, the randomly generated encounters, I'm a massive fan, and I think that's what gets people really in love with sailing. So yeah, I'm still 50-50 on whether it's a good idea or not. It really just depends on the sailing mechanics themselves. And even things like, am I just going to be able to get on a boat and just sail off around here, and someone can stand on the dock and watch me sail off? Is that a thing? I would quite like it if it was that way. I don't really want everyone to dive into instances straight away. Maybe once you get off the edge of the map, you're going into an instance area. But I think it would be quite cool if you could just genuinely explore the actual seas, and then there were random things, just randomly generated encounters that were like shooting stars almost in the sea, where there was a turbulent tide around here, and you can go and ride along it, and then you get some XP for that, or there's like fishing shoals that you can all of a sudden catch. Or you can go off and explore the randomly generated islands, but you'd be sailing off the map then and going into an instance. So I think that's what I'd like to see from it. I would quite like to see other players like all sailing around and be able to sail around all the actual sea space in the game. But I can't see it being like that. If it's like that, I'm more of a fan. Say if you could do around the world, bro. That would be so fun. Just going on your boat, just all the way around. I think that would be great. The more I've thought about this, the more I think you should be able to walk around as you're on your sailboat, and maybe you just right-click port or right-click starboard on this thing to steer the boat, and then there's literally just something super simple like with a mast to change your speed. Nothing too crazy and in depth, and the boat just like moves like that, and you can navigate the landscape. And that means you can do everything else. You could put nets down at the back of the boat while you were sailing out in the sea. You could fire cannons, all these sort of things. You could go down and repair holes, and I think that's how I'd like to see it. I want to be my character running around solving problems while I'm out at sea. And maybe the boat wouldn't be this big. Some boats could literally just be 2 tiles, and it was just the sail, and then there was a rudder at the back that you could also move or something like that. I don't know. I don't really know how sailing works. I think that sailing is the most exciting proposal, and the optimist within me knows that it would be the biggest draw to get new players into the game and returning players just to check it out. There are a lot of different possibilities and ways you could take it if the sailing mechanics are good. The pessimist thinks that it's a ginormous job, and I don't know if there's just going to be too many limitations with this old school game that it won't really work how people want it to work or think it should work, and it'll end up not turning out too good. But yeah, it's been a bit of a gamble sailing, honestly. Roll that dice.
Get ready for Shamanism! With Shamanism, you can study the mysterious power of nature and unlock the ability to perform rituals by gathering resources from nature and tapping into the spirit realm to infuse them, producing powerful items like tikis, totems, and poultices, in addition to enhancing your own equipment. Through mastering Shamanism, you unlock your third eye and gain access to the spirit realm, a new area of the game to explore where you can commune with spirits. In the gathering part of Shamanism, you'll collect 2 different kinds of resources, spiritual and natural. Natural resources come in 2 forms. Some resources you can forage across Gielinor, such as mushrooms, roots, bark, and leaves. Others can be harvested directly from creatures using a carving knife, such as taking bone marrow from a giant, the blood of a hellhound, or the spleen from a giant frog. Spiritual resources are harvested from the spirit realm. You can track down disturbed sites where the connection to the spirit realm is the strongest, and then reap the rewards.
Shamanism, whatever you call it as a skill, it's multifaceted, and Mod Light's just taking you through the gathering section of the skill. Wait, in fact, let's sort this out.
Shaman.
Yes, that's how I say it. Okay, I'm allowed to say that now. Nobody can cry in the comments. So, just to reiterate, shamanism is multifaceted. It's a production skill and a gathering skill. So, you gather items from the real world. You also gather items from the spirit world. You use the real world item with the spirit world item in a ritual, and you produce a new magical item that will help you in the game. For the real natural world component, say it could be picking berries or getting blood or bones or teeth from a monster. And remember, these are going to be untradeable, so it's not going to be too dissimilar to summoning back in the day where you used to kill things and get charms. It'll be like killing things for their hides, for extra little bits, foraging berries, doing lots of different things in the real world, which I am a massive fan of actually, because it brings this world to life. Think of all the monsters which are just dead content right now. They could actually have some very good drops for shamanism. Say sucker hide, or however you say these monsters. That could be used in it. There's an opportunity here to bring the dead parts of this game to life through shamanism. Once you have your natural components, you'll have to go into the spirit realm to get your spirit realm component. Now, this could be all the same sort of stuff, because I imagine you go through a portal or a door or something, and then Runescape changes the colour slightly and, ooh, we're in the spirit world now. That sort of thing. And you get your item, you come back to the real world, use them on each other in a ritual, and then you make your magical item. But one thing to touch on about the spirit world is I think it's very interesting because it essentially has the same value proposition of sailing in terms of you open a door, you can go through that door in the spirit world where you can't in the normal world. And that new dungeons, think about the pyramids in the desert, new crypts, new everything, exploration. That's one of the big selling points for sailing, and it can be here with shamanism as well with the spirit world. So I'm a big fan of this proposition so far.
Let's move on to production. Once you've gathered the natural and spiritual resources required, you'll have to perform a ritual to infuse the natural resources with the spiritual ones. To do so, you'll need to create and use a ritual circle. These can be drawn in most outdoor areas. The products of shamanism could include tikis, poultices, oils, incenses, idols, relics, totems, a collection of quirky magical utility items, and even enhancements to your existing equipment.
So that's the core gameplay loop. Get a natural component, a spiritual component, put them in a ritual circle, do sort of 14-14 skill. Very intuitive, very old school RuneScape, and you create a powerful shamanic item that can be used throughout the real world. Imbuing items, if they're combat related, hopefully not too strong. I'm just going to say that straight away. I'd rather see this be used as a way to revitalize dead content throughout the game, kind of like Invention was for RuneScape 3. I also really like the idea of the spirit world exploration. People love that from sailing, and this would be a realistic way to do it, I think, in old school RuneScape, where we're limited by the game engine, the tech, the artist time, all that sort of stuff. And then, I also am a big fan of the untradeable stuff that you can gather. I really liked getting charms from summoning back in the day passively from doing all my other stuff. If you could do that in RuneScape, that'd be great. Lots of dead content monsters would be revitalized. Maybe they're the best XP monsters. Those sort of things. I also like that there's a gathering and production element, so the skill training is somewhat varied by default. It's not going to be the same thing all the time. There is some variation there, which I think makes for an interesting skill, and it just seems to fit old school RuneScape. It is kind of like warding. Warding in disguise, which I actually voted yes for by the end, but I think that was tarred with such a black brush. I don't know, that doesn't even make sense, but people didn't like the initial proposal, but they changed it into something that I thought was actually quite decent by the end. And they've kind of rehashed it and called it shamanism, and now everyone's like, yeah, let's go. What a fickle bunch everybody is in this game. Alright, so what am I voting for? What propaganda am I here to subject you to? That's why you came here, isn't it? You just want to be influenced by me. Right, so Taming, I think you can tell from how I spoke about it. I think it's a 5 out of 10. And if it was taming or no new skill, I'd vote for no new skill and I'd vote no. I just don't want something following me around. I don't want chores. I don't want that sort of gameplay that you're playing through a third party. 5 out of 10. Don't really want it. I wouldn't be crying if it came in, but I'm just not the biggest fan. The interesting discussion, in my opinion, is between sailing and shamanism. I just can't say this fucking word, bro. Satanism. Let's call it some shit. Paganism. I don't even know, bro. Okay, so sailing and shamanism. Which one is better? Now, I actually like the theming of the sea and exploring the sea more so than exploring the spirit world. However, I think the exploration of the spirit world is an easier job for the team. I'm not saying that I don't trust the Jagex team, but a gigantic sea expansion that matches up to what you're imagining it to be, I just think that's so difficult, and I think back to when Zaya was first launched in 2016, massive continent, like everyone was like, what the hell's this? This is really under-delivered, because it's a huge project just to release something in one batch. I don't know. That's why I think sailing has higher highs. Sailing can potentially be a 10-10, 10 out of 10. But it also can be a 4 out of 10, bro. When you're going around in the interface trying to like sail around bollards and shit and just straight up having a bad time, it has potential to be bad. So sailing could be a 10 out of 10, could be a 4 out of 10. I see it as a massive gamble, whereas shamanism, I actually think it's an 8 out of 10, 9 out of 10. I think it's a really good, really solid option for a skill. So when it comes down to the vote, if I'm feeling spicy, I'll vote for sailing because I think it has the potential for higher highs. But in my head, I really know that I think shamanism is the better option. And I think I do prefer shamanism overall because it has that exploration aspect to it, which sailing does have. It also has gathering and production. It makes sense. There's a chance for us to revitalize lots of dead content and rebalance things for some very, very overlooked areas of the game and just bring things to life. Sailing is just too much of a risk. Unless we get sailing into a beta and actually sailing around is incredibly fun, but it's hard to visualize, isn't it? Anyway, they're all just opinions at the end of the day. You guys vote for whatever you want to vote for. Talk about it down in the comments and subscribe to this channel. I'm Mission Solo. My good friend SoloMission. You'll be happy to know won the Golden Gnome thanks to you all, you guys. That honestly made my month. Amazing news for the best old school Runescape YouTuber in 2022. Really humbled, really appreciative to win that award. So thank you very much for everyone that supported me in that. And I will keep going with rambles on this channel. There's a new series coming very soon on the main channel. A very SoloMission series. I think you guys will look forward to it. So yeah, without further ado, see ya.